Yeah, has freelance journalism taught you any important life lessons?
Well, yeah, like I said, it taught me confidence.
Yeah.
It taught me confidence, but what's it taught me? Well, I mean, freelancing has actually given me everything. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for freelancing.
Yeah.
If I hadn't done it, I wouldn't be here. But what it's taught me is, it's actually taught me a very, very positive notion of humanity. It would have been quite. I was quite, like I say, gloomy teenager.
Yeah,
quite sort of hating of the world, you know. But in being forced to go out into that world and shake some hands and meet some people, it's actually kind of given me a big picture of how the world is actually quite a beautiful place, and how people, the kindness of strangers is an amazing thing. And as a freelancer, you a constant stranger everywhere you go, and that's been really brought home to me. I'm not saying I wake up every morning, throw the curtains open and say, well, hello beautiful world. I certainly don't. But it's, put it this way, I don't think if I'd have not been a freelance journalist, I'm not being self-dramatic here, but if I'd have not been a freelance journalist, I might have ended up topping myself or something.
Really?
Because it's just that if I was left to my own devices, I'd think myself into a black hole.
Yeah.
I'd think myself into you know, a real dark solitude. But being forced to go out there and meet the world has taught me everything, and it's taught me how to be positive about things. It also teaches you, because your life is chaotic, you don't get so bound up in routine, and you don't get so stressed out by everything. I find that people who've gone straight from uni, say, into work, and have done that, they get so angry, and they've got short tempers, and kind of every little thing sets them off. If you're living a life where arrangements can be changed at the drop of a hat, and I'm not saying you get relaxed and loose about stuff, you actually still have to stay on top of it, but you accept the world more for the wonderful, strange, occasionally usually dark, occasionally amazing, mixed up crazy place it is, because you've been in it. So it's taught me a lot. It basically shoved me out of my room, where I would have happily festered for my whole life, and forced me to meet the world and say hello to it. So God bless it.
All right. See if I've got anything else. Yeah. What irritates you more than anything else where freelance journalism is concerned?
What irritates me? What about other journalists, you mean, or
other journalists? Just
arrogance annoys me. There was. I know plenty of journalists that I never used to really get on with journalists much. I used to get on with photographers, because photographers are more humble, and they're crazier as well, and they're just loads more fun. Yeah. But I hate arrogance. I hate it when you get a journalist pushing his way to the front of a gig with all this "don't you know who I am" nonsense.
Yeah, it does matter.
Absolutely annoying. And really, if you conduct relationships like that, you're not going to get ahead in the freelance world. One of the key rules of being a freelancer is, no matter how much they're annoying you, you've got to be unfailingly polite. Yeah. You know, it's nice to be nice, and it's, you know, just thinking because you've got your name in print, you can be a massively arrogant cock. I mean, a lot of journalists are like that, and it's usually the ones who don't deserve it, you know. Yeah, whereas there's plenty of journalists I know who've been in the game for like 20 years, and I've written some of the greatest things I've ever read in my life, and they are usually the loveliest people. And you realise that, well, the reason they wrote so beautifully is because they're beautiful people, you know. Whereas if you're a bit of an arrogant dick, you're not going to stay in the game, because your writing's going to be too much full of aggravation. It's not going to be any good, too leery. It's those people who are just in love with the idea of meeting famous people and being a journalist who aren't going to last. And it's that they only annoy me because I'm constantly convinced that there's probably kids out there who could write fantastically, but aren't given the opportunities because they're not pushy enough to get themselves down to London and shove themselves in somebody's face at a party. You know, that's kind of, I mean, even though the internet has opened things up, everyone keeps saying that anyway, I wonder if a shy little nervous kid from Coventry who sends a letter to a music magazine could end up getting a job anymore. I'm not entirely sure they could. That was back in a time when people would be hired simply for somebody spotting a spark in what they do. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I think if somebody comes up to somebody at a party and says, I've got 20,000 Twitter followers and I've got this blog and all this, never mind the quality, feel the width. It's kind of like, oh, you're making a name for yourself, you're in. Whereas I think where they might be better off looking is those quiet little individuals who've actually developed and honed something they've got to say. Because it's not the arrogant, it's arrogance, yeah. It's arrogance that bugs me about freelance journalists, because they've got no bloody right to be arrogant. Nobody's got any right to be like that. But, you know, your niceness or non-niceness will always reflect itself in your writing. So if you're a nice person, your writing will be great.
But if those sort of like arrogant people sort of like didn't have the sort of skills, say, to make like a proper sort of well thought out article, then why would they have gotten so many followers in the first place? And so
because I think what's being valued at the moment is not writing. What's being valued is, I mean, I've got an editor called Stevie Chick, and he edits a magazine called Loose Lips Sink Ships, and he's got me to write countless things from over the years. And he was defending me on an internet chat board because I was being slagged off.
Yeah.
And he said, one of the things I like about Neil's writing is that it can't be reduced to 42 characters or whatever. It can't be reduced to the length of a tweet.
Of a Twitter.
And that, I think, might be the problem at the moment. The more people get embroiled in social networking and the brevity that insists on. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's great to be restricted in your word count. It forces you to be a tighter, more concise writer.
Yeah.
But if that's all you do, and there's no looseness in the writing, there's no ability to develop rhythm in it, and there's no ability to develop an argument properly, then that can be a problem. And I fear that we might be breeding a future generation of people who simply not only can't write that stuff, but can't even read anything that's longer than 200 words. One of the frequent criticisms I get at the moment in the comment sections underneath my articles is, didn't bother reading this, it was too long. Or,
I hate that so much.
You get that a lot on the internet. People who just don't bother reading stuff because it's too long, and that's a bit of a problem for the future. It might not be a problem, maybe that is the future, but if that's the future, I want no part of it. I'm retreating to my library.
I hate that so much. It really gets on my nerves.
There's a lot of that.
I think I'm running out of questions.
That's fine. No, good questions.
Have I asked what's the best advice you could ever give about freelance journalism?
Oh God, I don't know if you have, but if you you might have done. But I've only got one bit of advice: be good.
Be good.
Be good. I don't mean be good and be a good person. You know, and there's some terrible people who are journalists, but I mean be good at what you do. People forget that. People think it is all about making the right connections, because for some reason people want their foot in the media door. They just want in.
Yeah.
But what's going to sustain you through the tough times is loving it. You know, and I mean loving it. I mean, I love the English language. I love what I can do with it.
Yeah,
I love the games you can play with it. I love the way it suggests things. I love the way if you put certain words in there. I love playing with language. I love doing that. You've got to love language. Yeah, that's it. If we're going to boil it down to, I mean, I said be good. I said be good to somebody else who asked the same question. But fundamentally, if we're talking writing, which you are, I think, never mind freelancing for now. For freelancing, okay, with freelancing, be good at what you do and be bloody organised and work hard. That's all I've got to say about that. For writing, love language. Love language to the point where you wonder where language stops and you start. You know, love language to the point whereby, you know, you express yourself better kind of writing stuff than you do talking sometimes, you know. Love language. That's my advice for any writer. And if you love language, that means you'll read it a lot and you'll write it a lot. And that's the only two things you can do. You just got to keep doing it. If you're going to be a good footballer, what you've got to do? Practice. You've got to kick a ball against the wall. If you're going to be a good writer, you've got to keep doing it over and over and over again. Just keep honing it and get better and better. You know, it is... That's the trouble, you know, what you're talking about. People don't want to read long articles. People don't want to write long articles. There's so much laziness out there. People just want to kind of ease back in their podule and kind of be entertained.
Fed to them,
and have it fed to them. And that is going to be fatal, really, for the media and for writing. Nobody's going to say anything new. We're all just going to be retweeting what's been said in the past. That's what I'm missing at the moment. I'm missing people like me. I'm missing 17-year-old, 21-year-olds like me. I read plenty of 21-year-olds writing for the Enemy who just seem happy to be there, and it's just kind of, I was at this gig, thought this, 9 out of 10. I don't see anyone with fire in their belly or something unique,
I know what you mean.
or something unique to say and a unique way of saying it. And we're not, the further we get away from people reading things at length and writing at length, the further we're going to get away from anything. I mean, I think the greatest response you can possibly aim for in social networking style things is a lull, is a snigger, it's kind of a shallow response. I'm not saying that it can't be good, but it's that much. Or oh my god, I guess that's all you get.
Yeah.
But if that's all you're aiming for thumbs up and to be liked, you're in the wrong. Well, see, this is the trouble, Christian. All of the advice I've given you today is useful if you want to be a good writer, but a good writer's getting hired anymore.
No, not
maybe
really.
I should say, be mediocre, be dull, repeat what you've heard elsewhere. But hopefully, there are still kids out there who've got something unique to say, who feel. I mean, I think, to a large extent, all of the great people I've ever worked with have been isolated by their brains, if you like.
Yeah.
Their brains have kind of not only isolated them from, they've isolated them from their peer group. I mean, I noticed with you, though you are a perfectly functioning social member of that group, you're slightly removed, let's put it that way. You're slightly removed. You're interested in different things than they are. It's those people who make great writers, I think. Whereas the trouble is now, nobody has to be alone anymore.
No.
No matter what you're into, you're immediately plugged into a network of people who are into the same thing, a huge network of people. Music lost me friends when I was a kid. Being obsessed with reading lost me friends when I was a kid. I used to go up, like I said, to Warwick Uni and read books in their library that they didn't have anywhere else. That was my Saturday. It wasn't exactly a happening time. But, being into metal, being into hip-hop when I was a kid excluded my friends, or excluded me from having any friends. Now you've immediately got loads of friends if you're into those things. So I don't know if it's just me being an old fart, but put it this way: great writers in the classic sense of being a great writer, I worry where the hell they're going to come from.
Yeah. Right, it's not on the bit of paper, but 20 years, where do you see yourself?
Ooh.
And you're writing?
Still writing. Probably not about pop music at that point. I think, although it's still just about tolerable for 38-year-old, oh bloody hell, it's 12 gone, for a 38-year-old bloke to write about pop music, I'm not sure a 58-year-old bloke can write about pop music effectively and still feel part of it. I'll still be writing about music, I'll still be writing about everything, and hopefully I'll also be writing more than just criticism and reviews and prose. I want to start writing novels, and I want to start writing scripts. To me, everything we've been talked about in terms of there's not much money in writing anymore actually frees you up to write what the hell you want. So now I'm thinking I'm going to get this book sorted, and then the world's my oyster. I'm still probably going to be teaching at City College though, which is fine by me. Teaching and writing, I'm happy as Larry.
All right, and I think that's pretty much it.
It is. It's 12 o'clock. I'll go and let them out.
Half an hour.
Cheers, Christian. That was great.